Hey everyone, it's Cody. Today's video is not going to be the sexiest thing. We're going to be talking about the analytics and the stats about the population growth here in Utah. There's not going to be any fancy homes. I'm not going to be showing you around the state. I'm not going to be doing anything that's really special in that regard. So this video may not be for you. If it's not, that is 100% okay. But if you care about the numbers, if you care about the growth of Utah, where it's going, what it's going to become in the next 30 years, then this will be the video for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the population growth that's happening here in the state, as well as in each individual county, what's going to be driving that population growth, and what you can expect if you're looking to buy a home here or if you're looking to invest here in Utah. Let's jump into it. Okay guys, so the first thing that I want to show you here is the map. This is a research study that was done by a group over at the University of Utah. They did this research and looked at the population for what it's going to be from 2015 through 2065. I'm only going to go up to 2050 because I want to make it an even 30 years based on today's date being in 2020. So we're going to take a look at this, and the first thing I want to point out here in 2020, the population is roughly 3.3 million people. They're expecting this to continue to increase. We're going to hit 4 million people in roughly 2032. And then after that, we're going to continue to climb all the way through 2050, where we're going to hit a population of 5 million people. This means that we're going to have a huge increase over the next 30 years. Most of this is going to be coming from net migration and also just the natural increase that you're going to get from people having kids. So you are going to get a huge portion of this from net migration. You can see here that over the last couple of years and possibly when this was done, they expected a huge migration over the last couple of years, and they're expecting that to actually decrease over the coming years. I don't know that that will be the case just from what I'm seeing. I'm seeing more and more people move into the state every single day, but these guys might know a little bit more about that than I do. They've done all of the research behind this. I'm just speaking from what I see talking to you guys that watch these videos. So they're expecting this to go down, but then will stay steady and even increase a little bit over the next 15 to 20 years before again kind of decreasing as we go into 2050. So that's what they're expecting as far as the net migration. When you look at the natural increase, they're expecting that to stay fairly steady as well, possibly increasing a little bit until about 2035 and then dipping down as we head into 2050. So this is a total population. The next thing I want to show you here is how that population is going to be spread out throughout the different counties here in Utah. So if I look at this county share of state total population, this top line here is Salt Lake County. So if we take a look at this, and I've got a spreadsheet that I'm going to show you this here. I know this is kind of geeky, but I put together a spreadsheet showing the changes and how this is all going to play out for the major counties here in the state. So in 2020, right now, they're estimating that the county share of Salt Lake County is roughly 35.5% of the state's population. They're going to expect that this will decrease all the way down here to 30.5% by the year 2050. This second line here is Utah County. So Salt Lake County is actually going to decrease as the percentage of the entire state's population. I think that's kind of expected because most of Salt Lake County is developed, and so there's only there's not quite as much land in Salt Lake County as there is in other counties for them to actually continue developing. At this point, we're going to have to start going vertical instead of horizontal here in Salt Lake. So what we're looking at here for Utah County is in 2020, we're looking at a 20.4% total for the state's population, for Utah County specifically. By 2050, they're expecting that to be 25.9%. So a huge increase, and they're expecting that to continue on the years after that. So a huge increase there for Utah County. That's where most of the growth is going to happen. When I show you on the spreadsheet, you're going to see that there's a huge increase there. The next things that I want to point out, you've got Davis County here. Davis County currently sits at 11% here in 2020. This is where cities like Bountiful, Farmington, Kaysville, areas like that are located. By 2050, they're expecting 9.8%. So it's actually going to decrease as its own percentage of the entire state's population. If we look at this purple one, this is Weber County. This is where Ogden is located. That's going to be 8% today. And in 2050, we're going to be down to 7.1%. This red line here is Washington County. This is where St. George is at. And yes, I do have a partner in St. George. If you're looking to make that move to St. George, I can help you with that. So make sure to get in touch with me on that topic if you want to. Washington County, 5.6% as of right now. And they're expecting that to increase to, let's see, 7.8% by the year 2050. So that's not as quite of a big of a jump as you'll see in Utah County, but when we look at the spreadsheet, when it comes to the total population and how that actually changes within the county itself, it's going to be a huge increase. These other couple of counties that I want to mention here, Cache County, that's where Logan's at. I'm not going to cover that one here in this video today. Let's see if I can find it here. Summit County, they're all kind of smashed here at the bottom, but Summit County and Wasatch County. So this is at 1.1% in Wasatch County. Summit County is 1.3%. This is where cities like Park City are, Heber City, Camas, and those other mountain towns that you're going to find just to the east of Salt Lake County. So right now 1.1% and 1.3%. If I come over here, Summit County in 2050 is going to be 1.3%. And remember, guys, this is as a total of the entire state's population. So even though the percentage is not changing, that still means that the population is actually going to increase. And if we can find Wasatch County here, that's going to be sitting at 1.4%. So a little bit of an increase there in Summit and Wasatch County. As a percentage of the entire state's population, you're not going to see much of an increase there other than just the increase from, natural growth. So let's jump over here to this screenshot here. I wanted to show you guys this because I think this is really helpful for seeing where the growth is going to happen. This is Wasatch Front. Everywhere along here is going to be considered Wasatch Front. You've got Weber County, Davis, Salt Lake County, and Utah County. You can see that there's huge booms. The color, the darker the color and the bigger it is, means that the percentage of the population is going up drastically, right? So you can see that there's still a ton of growth here, and you can see, if you kind of know the area, you'll see that most of these bubbles are kind of situated on the west side of Salt Lake County. If you watched my last video, I'll link to it in the description down below. But if you watched that, you'll see that most of the growth for what is possible in Salt Lake County is going to be happening on the west side of the county itself. You've also got this growth here in Utah. You're going to see some growth, in the natural corridor where you've got Lehigh, American Fork, Pleasant Grove. You're going to have all the way down to, let's say, Spanish Fork. But most of the growth, or at least the biggest expansion of growth, is actually going to be happening in the Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs areas. And the reason for this is because land is still super cheap out there. There's a ton of land to go around, and you've got easy access into Salt Lake. You've got easy access into Utah County. There's so much land out there that it's going to be developable for many years to come. So that's where most of the growth is happening. You'll see here that these areas in the eastern side, Summit and Wasatch counties, like I said, Park City, Heber, areas like that, they are still darker circles. Even though they're smaller, that means that they're just not as big of a percentage of the overall population. But because they're so dark, it shows the type of growth that they're expected to see. So very good growth there as well. If we come down here, this is kind of where I-15 runs. There's lots of little towns and cities along here that are expected to grow still. This is where Cedar City is, and then of course Washington County is where St. George is at. St. George is absolutely blowing up. That's why every single circle in here is that deep red color. It's absolutely blowing up down there. It's a beautiful place. I've got a brother who lives there and he absolutely loves it, so something you should definitely check out. If you're not looking to come to Salt Lake specifically, maybe St. George is another option for you. Next, I want to jump into the spreadsheet. So I put together this spreadsheet here to show you guys a little bit of the analytical side of what's happening in the population here. Like I said, this is not going to be anything sexy or anything within the video, no cool houses or anything to look at, but this is going to kind of show you how the growth is going to change over the next 30 years so that if you're thinking about making an investment in real estate here, you can know that you're going to have a safe and solid investment. You're not investing in an area where people are leaving or where there's not going to be any growth. Where there's growth and where there's demand, you can expect that home prices will continue to rise, so you can have a safe, solid investment in these areas. So jumping into this list here, I want to just kind of point out what I've got here. So this column here is the population in 2020. That's the total population for right now. And again, I'm only covering kind of the main counties that we just talked about. The state of Utah sits at roughly 3.3 million people. Salt Lake County is sitting at roughly, let's say, 1.2 million. Utah County, 678,000. Davis County, 366,000. Weber, 266,000. Washington, 186. Summit, 43,000. And Wasatch, 36,000. So these areas for Summit and Wasatch, of course, they're more expensive and there's just not as many people who live there. So you can get a little bit more of that, kind of smaller town feel if that's where you're looking to move. Just be prepared that home prices are a little bit more expensive up there. So this column here is the population, and then you've got the entire state here, and then you've got it broken down by county on these sections here. So jumping over here, population 2050, the state of Utah is estimated to be at 5 million, like we just talked about. With the growth in the population percentage that they're expecting, Salt Lake should sit at about 1.5 million people. So not actually a huge increase over the next 30 years. I mean, 300,000 people, 350,000, that is a pretty big increase, but it's, maybe not as much as I would have expected myself. I thought that we were going at a much faster rate. When you look at that difference here, if you come over here, you can see that the net change between these years is listed right here. And you've got the percentage growth in this last column here. So I just want to jump over and kind of touch on Salt Lake County here specifically first. You can see that the total percentage of the state's population is 35%, like we talked about. It will be 30.5 by the year 2050, and that represents a roughly 30% growth in population. And coming down here to Utah is going to have a massive increase in the amount of population. Like I said, it's only going from 20% of the current population to 25, or let's say 26% of the population in 2050, but it's going to represent an over almost 92% growth for the county itself. They're going to have 600,000 people living in Utah County. When you go out to Utah County, if you're along that main corridor on the eastern side along the Wasatch Front, you'll know that there's not a ton of land there. So if you're looking to invest, if you want to get in early, you're going to be going out west. You're going to be going to Eagle Mountain, Saratoga Springs, or further down south where there is still a little bit of land there. Looking at Davis County, we're going to go from 366,000 to 490,000. The percentage of the total state's population is actually going to go down in Davis County. The population itself will increase by almost 34%, so you will see an increase there. Weber, we're looking at 8% down to 7.1% of the total population, but still a roughly 34% increase for the population itself. The last thing I want to point out here, the last two things, Washington, look at this crazy growth, 205,000 more people over the next 30 years. Right now, there's only 186,000 people. The population there is going to more than double over the coming years. I think this is a little bit scary because there's, it's a desert down there. There's not a ton of water. There is a lot of land and there's a lot to do. It's so close to so many national parks, but I'm just a little bit worried to see how kind of the landscape evolves. And it'll be interesting to see how this really becomes the hub for the southern part of the state of Utah. These last two sections here, Summit and Wasatch counties, you're going to see 50% increase in Summit County and 92% increase in Wasatch County. Wasatch County is going to be mostly Heber City, so you're going to see most of the growth there. Summit County is not going to have as much growth as Wasatch County. They're a little bit more strict on the building rules and the type of development that they'll allow there. So I think that's going to be a contributing factor for why you won't see as much growth. All right, last thing I want to talk about is a little bit about what's causing this growth to actually happen. I want to first talk about Washington. Like I just said, the population there is going to almost double over the next 30 years, or more than double, sorry. Most of this growth is because here in Utah, we do have the 4 seasons, at least in the northern part of the state. If you're down in the southern part of the state in St. George, you're not going to get snow. You might get a little bit of snow up in the mountains, up in the hills and stuff, but then it's going to be gone the next day. The weather there is pretty mild during the winter, so you don't see a ton of snow there. It doesn't get that cold. You're probably like in the high 30s to 40s most days, and maybe even the 50s during the winter. During the summer, though, it is extremely hot. It easily pushes 100 degrees for at least June, July, and August. You're going to have numerous days. Pretty much every single day is going to be at least 90 or 100 degrees. So it does get hot in the summer. I think that most of the growth there is just because it's still so relatively cheap. It's extremely close to the outdoors. There's a lot to do there, and it's just beautiful there. I mean, the red rock that Utah is known for, that's where you're going to find it. The other county that I want to point out specifically for growth is going to be Utah County. You're going to see 92% growth in Utah County. This is because mainly for the tech industry, it's absolutely blowing up, and it's mostly centered around Utah County right now. So you're going to see most of the growth happening there. You're going to see absolutely insane amounts of houses going up, townhomes, condos, things like that. There's going to be so many people coming into the area because they have jobs there and they're going to need somewhere to live. So this is going to see a huge amount of increase, mostly because of the job growth that's happening there, but also, again, just because it's such a beautiful place to live. So guys, that wraps up the video. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did like it, give me a thumbs up here on the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and last but not least, make sure to get in touch with me if you're making that move here to Salt Lake City or any of the surrounding areas. Even Washington County, if you're moving there, I do have a partner who works in that area. So make sure to get in touch with me. I absolutely love it when you guys reach out. Shoot me an email if that's easiest. Just get in touch with me so we can open up that line of communication, start talking about some potential options and what's going to be best for you. Guys, this is Cody signing out.